Just over a month ago, my wife and I bought a house. And you would think for somebody that does this for a living and talks about it all the time on YouTube, I would know exactly what I'm doing and not have any problems along the way. Of course, that's not exactly how it happened. This episode of Bald Prairie Real Estate is a story of my experience buying a house, the challenges and the mistakes I made. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bald Prairie Real Estate, where I educate you all about Canadian real estate. If you're new here, my name is Matthew Pfeifer. I'm a real estate agent from Regina, Saskatchewan, and this is going to be different than my other educational videos where I talk about some of the things I go through with my clients or give you an educational piece about buying a house in Canada. I'm going to walk you through what happened when I was buying a house, because just over a month ago, that's what my wife and I did. And yes, even as somebody who does this for a living and talking about it all the time on YouTube, I still made some pretty significant mistakes. So I wanted to walk you through the process, the plan my wife and I had in place, what actually ended up happening, the things we did right, and the things that we definitely didn't do right, the mistakes that we made in the process of buying a house. But before we get into that, let's start off with another terrible joke. And this one is another viewer joke. Those are my favorite. What do you call a cow that has no legs? Ground beef. If you have another terrible joke like Danny had, put it in the comments below so I can use it in a future episode of Bald Prairie Real Estate. My wife and I are big planners, so anytime we've done something together that's a big decision, we've always laid out the plan and the steps to accomplish that plan, and buying a house was no different. Our time frame was we wanted to buy a house in 2021. So for all the people that commented over the last year and a half, would you buy in this market with all the uncertainty we had, especially early last year? Or why do you pump real estate so hard if you're not gonna back it up and buy? Well, we did, and that was always the plan. But we wanted to make sure we were prepared. We had everything ready to go. Our finances were in order. We knew what we wanted. We knew where we wanted to be, and we wanted to be ready just in case the right house came up. This is the part of the video they call foreshadowing. But we could buy that house if the right house came up. So that was the plan of what we had in place when we were looking to buy a house. Now let's talk about what actually happened. A house came up on a Facebook post as a coming soon from a realtor here in the city. And for the rest of my life, my wife is probably going to lord this over me. She's the one that saw this. She's the one that found us the house. So me, the realtor, didn't find the house we ended up buying. But I phoned up the agent right away and said, send me all the photos. What are the details on it? When are you guys going on the market? They're going on next week, and the price point was exactly where we were comfortable purchasing. So booked the very first showing that I could get in to see it. And right away, this house was exactly what we thought it was going to be. And looking at the price and house, I knew that it was very likely this was going to be a multiple offer situation. So I tried to preempt that. We wrote them a full price offer. It was conditional to our financing and to home inspections. And we put a June possession date because that's what worked better for us. We put a 4-hour timeline. They only had 4 hours to make a decision on this. I knew it was highly unlikely to accept this, but I had to try it just in case. They of course said no. And it makes sense. When I drove by later that evening, I was showing houses in the neighborhood, and there were literally people lined up to look at this house. So it doesn't surprise me they said no to that offer. The next morning, they phoned us up and said, we've received a number of offers. We are going to review them this afternoon if you'd like to resubmit. Okay, we're in that multiple offer situation. Blind bidding, which I just did a video on right here. You should probably check that out. I wrote that just after we had this ordeal. Talked with my wife, and we had a dollar amount that went, this is what we feel comfortable with. And if somebody pays more money, so be it. They can have the house. Then the other thing we did was we tightened up our possession date to an immediate possession date. It wasn't ideal for us. It was going to make it a lot harder, but we knew we could make it work. My wife said, if someone wants to pay more money for this house, so be it. They can have it. But I don't want to lose this house because of possession date, because we had the ability to offer them that quick possession. It wasn't easy, but we could make it happen. So we sent in our offer. We raised our price about 6% above asking with the same conditions though, and the tighter possession date. Sitting there waiting, my wife had gone to work at this point, so I'm all by myself. Get the phone call, our offer had been accepted. I was really excited, get to phone my wife, tell her that our offer had been accepted. I'm pretty sure she was running up and down the halls at work celebrating. Now I got to get to work though, because I got to get all those inspections done and make sure we get our financing. And there were kind of two big things that came up during this process. The first one was the lender attached a kind of nasty little condition onto our financing that we had to have on top of our down payment and all of our closing costs an additional $20,000 in cash in our bank accounts. Thankfully, we had the ability to do that or we would have lost this deal. The other thing that came up in the home inspection was what was called polybutylene plumbing. I'd never seen it before, and I don't know many people that had seen this before. Maybe it's common in your neighborhood, but it's not in ours. It is a type of plumbing that is kind of your first generation click together polyurethane style plumbing, and it is prone to failures. And they don't use it in houses anymore. It's only a short period of time that this was used, and our house has it, and it's probably going to require a fairly significant renovation and additional cost. We were able to get an approximate cost to do this work, and it wasn't as expensive and intensive as we thought it was going to be, but it still needed to be done. So we negotiated down a price to match what was going to cost to get some of that work done. It was 50% cost share to do that. Okay, everything's good. We've got the deal accepted. We removed conditions. We're moving in 1 week. So we had to make sure we met with the lawyers and get everything done in less than a week because it was moving day. So that was what actually happened when we were buying a house. Let's chat about what we did right. And I think the biggest thing that we got right was that we were prepared. We had all our finances in order, but we also knew what we wanted, where we wanted to buy, and we had a time frame. We were gonna buy the best house we could in the given time frame that we were looking, and we weren't going to stress out about, well, maybe a better house will come up in the future. That's always going to happen. We were going to buy the best house we could in that time frame they wanted to buy, and we were going to be ready just in case a house came up a little bit earlier than we expected. We were going to be ready to buy. There were two other things that I think we got right that really helped us out. The first one was not stressing out about prices. And I know, yes, you want to get the best deal you can on a house, but for us, this was a long-term purchase. We were going to be there for 10 to 15 years. That was our plan. If the house didn't meet that, then it wasn't even a house that we were going to look at. And that allows us to ride out both market ups and downs. So if prices come down, we should have less of an impact because we're going to be there for a long period of time. Generally, somebody that's been in a house for 10, 15, 20 years is going to be better off the day they sell that house than when they first purchased it. The next thing we didn't stress out about and get laser focused on was interest rates. Yes, you want to get a great interest rate, but that shouldn't be your sole focus. We wanted two things: flexibility in that mortgage, but also knowing we had someone in our corner. So our mortgage broker, who was somebody that I've known for a while now, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit later in this video because he's got a great YouTube channel that you're going to want to check out. But we wanted flexibility in our mortgage. We wanted to be able to pay it off early if we had the financial capacity, so we could make lump sum payments or increase our payments if we wanted to do so. As well, if for whatever reason we were going to have to sell the house early, we could pay that out early without having significant prepayment penalties. So yes, interest rates are important to us, but the flexibility and knowing we had someone in our corner was far more important than 10 basis points. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this didn't go off without some mistakes being made, and there were 3 mistakes that I felt I made that if I would do this process all over again, that I would change. The first one was having all of our finances in one place. We had all the money together, but we had some of it in investment accounts, we had some in RSPs, we had some in our savings or a checking account. We kind of had money everywhere, and that made it very difficult for our mortgage broker because he had to go out and show how the money got there, where it came from, and how it was being used. All of the people that have commented over the years in my videos saying that you can just fake all of this and say you have X amount of money and then you'll get a mortgage, they've never gone out and actually gotten a mortgage before. I'm pretty sure of that because you have to show where all of that money came from. We made a lot of extra work for our mortgage broker because we didn't have everything all lined up. If I were to do it again, I'd have all of that money moved into one single account so that it was easy to document for that mortgage broker. The second thing where I would have done things differently is our mental attitude. We stressed out way too much about certain things that really didn't need to be worried about. I didn't even sleep right for a couple of days through this whole process. If I were to do it again, I definitely wouldn't stress out as much. I tell my own clients that things generally work out for a reason. So if they don't work out, it's usually for the better. My wife and I had actually tried to buy a house last year. We couldn't put a deal together. At the time, my wife was crushed. She figured this was the only house that we were ever going to like, and we couldn't make a deal happen. Well, turns out that not happening was probably the best thing for us, because the house we've ended up buying is a significantly better house than that one. It's going to work way better for us for a longer period of time. I think we got a much better house, and it was a much better deal at the end of the day as well. So stressing out over little things, these things tend to work out. So that's one thing I wouldn't do, is stress out so much. The last thing that I think we made a mistake on was how tight we ran all of the timelines. I always tell my buyers, we got to make sure we have some buffer room in case we find problems in inspections or there's some hiccups along the way. And I didn't do any of that for my own purchase. I even booked the moving trucks before we had a deal accepted, which is a big no-no. I should not have done that. But what it ended up resulting is a lot of stress, and there was no room for error. If we had had a problem with our financing, which we talked about, that $20,000 additional that the lender wanted us to have in there, if I had more time, we probably would have moved to a different lender and wouldn't have had to deal with that. We had the inspection problem with the plumbing. Thankfully, I was able to get those questions answered very quickly, but that could have easily turned into a problem. The other thing is, because we had to move money around really quickly and we didn't have it all in one place, we had to pull money out of RSPs a little bit early, and that resulted in a financial penalty tax-wise to us. So that tight timelines not only cost us some money, but it made our life very stressful. And if there had been any hiccups along the way, likely that deal would have fallen apart and we wouldn't have got this house. So if I was doing it again, I would have followed my own advice and left more room just in case something had a hiccup along the way. Now you've seen the process that my wife and I went through when we were buying a house. You've seen what we did right. You've seen what we did wrong. Let's talk about some of the lessons that I learned from this. And there are three major takeaways I think are really important. The first one is I have a much better understanding of what buyers are going through. I do this for a living, and I was stressed out and frustrated and emotional through the process. So I have a much better understanding of what buyers are going through, and I think I'm a better real estate agent because of going through this. The next one is the importance of building a team around you. I had friends and colleagues and professionals all around me that were able to help make this process smoother, easier, faster, better all around. First one I got to talk about is our mortgage broker, Kevin Carlson, who has a fantastic little YouTube channel. I'm going to put it up right there, as well as I put a link in the description to his channel. But his expertise, his knowledge, and his relationships with lenders and insurers made this process easier for us, and also probably helped us out actually getting this together, because it might not have worked out the way it had without him. But also, we had a great home inspector, we had a great lawyer, we had great people in the insurance industry that helped us out making sure this all happened. The last takeaway was the importance of being prepared. And it's something I stress with my own clients. It's why I created this channel, so that people like yourself could be more educated about the process of buying a house in the Canadian real estate market and what's going on. And that has been a huge thing that I've learned, and it's driving me to create even better content for you guys, so that you guys can be even more educated and have even more questions answered. So that's why I've got this first-time homebuyer playlist right here that you should check out. That's going to answer those first-time homebuyer questions. And of course, this video right here is what the YouTube algorithm says you need to learn about next about buying a house in Canada and from Bald Prairie Real Estate. As always, guys, thanks very much for watching.